There's a new member of the St. Lucie County Administration team. Find out more about them next on Inside St. Lucie. Hello and welcome to Inside St. Lucie, SLC TV's monthly government affairs show. I'm your host, Eric Gill, Communications Director for St. Lucie County. And on today's show, my guest will be St. Lucie County Commission Chair Kathy Townsend and newly appointed Deputy County Administrator Jason Davis. But before we meet our guest, here's some upcoming events and announcements from the Board of County Commissioners. St. Lucie County's Parks and Recreation and St. Lucie County's Sheriff's Office have partnered together to host the inaugural Trunk and Treat event, along with the Tunnels of Terror on Friday, October 13th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Haverdell Fen Center located at 2000 Virginia Avenue in Fort Pierce. This free pre-Halloween family fun event will feature vehicles and trunks decorated with various themes and stories filled with lots of candy and other treats. Music, games, crafting, food trucks, and more will take place throughout the evening, as well as a haunted house inside the Fen Center put together by local high school students. The 5th Annual Treasure Coast Wine and Ale Festival takes place Saturday, October 14th from 1 to 5 p.m. at Summer Crush Vineyard and Winery, located at 4200 Johnston Road in Fort Pierce. Locals and visitors can enjoy locally made beer, mead, wine, and cider, all crafted right here on the Treasure Coast. Pre-sale tickets are $30, not including tax and fees, and tickets on the day of the event are $40 each, not including tax and fees. Tickets provide each attendee with one tasting glass and unlimited tastings. For details, visit tcwineandaletrail.com. Several St. Lucie County departments will be participating in the 8th Annual Indian River Lagoon Science Festival taking place on Saturday, November 18th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in downtown Fort Pierce at the Riverwalk Center located at 600 North Indian River Drive. This free event brings together people of all ages to discover the wonders of science, technology, engineering, art, and math while celebrating the biodiversity that can be found in and around the Indian River Lagoon. For more details, visit irlsciencefest.org. St. Lucie County is partnering with the St. Lucie Cultural Alliance and the City of Fort Pierce to present the Levitt Amp Fort Pierce Music Series, covering a wide range of musical acts every Sunday from 2:30 to 7 p.m. until November 5th. This free 10-week concert series features food vendors and other activities on the beautiful grounds of Museum Point Park on Hutchinson Island between the St. Lucie County Aquarium and Regional History Center. For details, visit artsstlucie.org/Levitt. Now for the latest updates about all St. Lucie County Commission meetings, workshops, and events, be sure to visit our website at stlucieco.gov and click on our comprehensive calendar located on the home page. And if you'd like to be added to our press release distribution list, send us an email at pio@stlucieco.org. We're also on all the social media platforms at St. Lucie Go, so we hope you'll follow us there. We're going to take a quick break. Before we do, we're going to check in with the latest economic development stats with another St. Lucie Works. St. Lucie County's tourism revenue decreased by nearly 16% for July compared with the same time frame a year ago. Roughly 20% of the revenue came from private vacation rentals, while 80% of the stays were traditional commercial properties. Year to date, the county's bed tax collection is 8.9% higher than last fiscal year. Overall building permit activity in unincorporated St. Lucie County decreased by 23% in July compared to June, with 1,371 permits submitted, yet it was an increase of 9% over the same month 1 year ago. According to the Florida Realtors Association, the median home sale price in St. Lucie County in July was roughly $396,000, a 2% decrease from last year, while condo values increased by 9% with the median price at $264,950. St. Lucie County's unemployment rate increased slightly in July to 3.7% compared to June's 3.6%. Statewide, the unemployment rate was 3.1%. The largest increases in the labor force on the Treasure Coast were in education and health services, followed by professional business services and leisure and hospitality. According to CareerSource, there were roughly 6,000 more jobs in St. Lucie County, a 3.7% increase compared to last year. If you work for a local business looking for skilled or trained labor, be sure to contact the staff at CareerSource as they can assist your company with its recruitment and training needs. And if you're an individual looking for a job, they can help you as well. Visit the CareerSource online at careersourcerc.com or call 1-866-4U-to-HIRE. Welcome back to Inside St. Lucie. I'm your host, Eric Gill, and I'm joined by St. Lucie County Commission Chair Kathy Townsend. Thanks for coming on.
Good morning.
And our new Deputy Administrator, Jason Davis. Welcome, both of you.
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner, you've been on the show a few times, so I thought we'd start with Jason a little bit, not to, just to give him a chance to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself and why you chose to come work for St. Lucie County.
Absolutely. Very nice. Moved to Florida in '84 from Louisiana. Grew up in Palm Beach County. I went to middle school, high school, graduated, then went to Florida State to play baseball, but that did not go as planned. So wrapped up Florida State and then started working in private security, and I did that for 12 years and then transferred into government and worked with Palm Beach County for 16 years in their facilities and water utilities departments. So personally, married, 3 kids. My wife works at the airport. She's on the track to be an airport director, so yeah, she's a hard charger. Yeah, my son is 22, lives in Denver, works at a company called Sequest. It's kind of like a SeaWorld, sort of.
Oh, very cool.
And then I have a daughter in middle school and just started kindergarten.
Wow, okay.
So, yep, keeping me out of trouble.
Yeah,
And that's pretty much it. And why I came to St. Lucie County, I started looking for jobs in this field. Is what I went to school for. It's kind of my passion. I enjoyed it once I got into government work, and the opportunity presented itself, and I applied for it. Sat through some meetings to kind of get some background and make sure it was a good family fit for me, and life took me
I
down
think,
this path.
Commissioner, I don't know if you were aware of that, but when Mr. Davis was interviewing, or I think even before you interviewed, he kind of came up. And,
I was very aware of that.
oh yeah, you saw him.
I
You're
saw
like, "Who's
him.
that stranger
Well, no,
sitting
I
on the
saw
front
him
row?"
sitting out there, and I asked a couple people, and nobody knew who he was. And I said, "Well, I'm going to find out." And I walked over to him and I said, "Hi," and introduced myself. And actually, that's probably what landed him the job overall.
Oh, very
He was
nice.
in the final 2,
Mhm.
and commissioners don't hire the assistant deputies, but however, I did have a conversation and say for somebody that's that vested, he's the only one out of everybody that applied that he came, and he wasn't boisterous about it. He came of his own free will. He took vacation time from where he was, or sick time, to come here, and he sat there and he observed, because as you know, watching from TV is not the total dynamics of the body language that actually happens in a room. And so to me, that showed great leadership, and I did bring that up. I said, I really think it should be afforded an interview, because he was the only one that did do that, and he was there at every meeting for a while, a couple of months.
Yeah.
So I knew you were there, and by the time we discovered who you were, everybody knew who you were.
Oh, okay.
And I'm always amazed. I've sat on interviews, and the time I've been here at the county, and you ask me, "What do you know about St. Lucie County?" Well, I don't really know a whole lot. Well, what you're applying to work here, because like you said, it's a two-way street, right? You want to see if you want to come. We're hiring to see if you're a good fit with us, but it's also a matter of, is this going to be a good fit for me and what I'm looking for?
Yeah. My only concern was he was very shy. Like he came, but now knowing your background, I understand that you were in security. So, he just was back there with everybody else. He didn't come and say, "Hi, I'm Jason, I'm applying for the job." I mean, he was very humble about the way that he did things. And so after they hired him, I said, I just have a concern, like he's awful quiet and shy. Is he going to fit in? Because we're kind of crazy around here. You're fitting in, you're blending in, you're catching on.
I wanted to baby step my personality.
Yeah.
But
Don't
yes,
come out swinging, right?
correct.
For the fence. Just get the single and then worry about it.
That's right.
Try to make that baseball reference. But
Yeah.
now, but I run into you too. You were visiting some of the events Parks was doing, and it turns out that's one of the departments that report to you. There are, as you mentioned, the board hires the county attorney and the county administrator, and we have 2 deputy administrators, and I don't even know how many total departments we have now, because we keep kind of
We've
shifting.
merged several. Yeah, we've merged
and
a
some
couple,
broken
yeah.
off and some more, but roughly about 20-something departments.
Correct.
And you oversee
5. So parks, facilities, IT, mosquito control, and libraries.
Okay.
So a little bit of experience in all of them, with the exception of mosquito control. But if you spend any time with Mr. Jacobson, he is a wealth of knowledge.
He
So
is.
He is.
He's
And he's
great.
one that worked his way up too through the organization, through the department. So he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he
Okay.
does. He's a great guy, good leader.
I have got quite the education
Sure.
from him in my month and a half here.
That
so
whole
far.
department, though, even his staff, like Betty Jo, who is the mosquito guru,
Yeah.
you show her a mosquito, she'll tell you the scientific
Yep.
name for it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, who knows this? Who goes to school
Yeah.
for this?
Yeah.
Betty Jo, right? I guess every county has one.
So what are your takeaways from just your first observation been here, some of the strengths and weaknesses of the county and what we have going for us?
Yeah, that was part of the reason I did my due diligence, if that's the right way to phrase it. I wanted to see some dynamics behind the scenes. I had sat on some interview panels for different municipalities. I kind of didn't like what I saw. It was a lot of infighting and personal agendas from the board. So in attending those meetings, I saw a completely different environment here. People genuinely care about the product that they're putting out for the consumers, the public. Just overall friendly, like a family environment. Not what I was used to, and I love where I came from, but it was such a big machine that you didn't have that family environment. So that was great. And then in terms of the challenges, I think it's the same nationwide. Regulatory changes. They're going to drive some budget issues. Yeah, St. Lucie County is going to grow. I know there's a big push here to potentially, limit the growth, but it's going to happen. So infrastructure, and if you spend the money now, it's a lot of money, but if you don't, it's going to be 3 times as much in the future. So whether it's roads, water utility infrastructure, cable, internet, all that stuff. Yeah, so the sooner we can get ahead of that, those are the sorts of things. And then just attracting and retaining top tier talent. So credit to the county. Before I started, they had hired a third-party evaluator to perform this evergreen company to look at salaries and look at the job descriptions and make sure it's fair and equitable, so you can attract and retain that good talent. So that's one of the big challenges, especially in the 5 sections that I have with those, the trades and the IT and the engineers. Mm-hmm. It's tough to compete with the private sector right now.
Absolutely. And Commissioner, during the budget, you talked that the topic of growth came up a little bit recently, and I find it interesting, and I shared this analogy with our budget director. You hear a lot of times, run government like a business. Well, if you say, what's the number one goal of a business, right? Well, to provide service, well, you have to make a profit, or otherwise you're not going to be in business. And with a company, if you consider us like a company, so who are our owners? Well, the people that live here, right? They're the shareholders. They own stock in this corporation. If your property value is worth more now than when you bought it, then we are running an efficient business, right? Your values have gone up. But unfortunately, what that means is your taxes probably go up even when you lower the millage rate.
Yeah, that's true. It was very sad to hear the people that came, and I already knew it. We all know it. We're all affected by it. We're commissioners. We live here. We have the same hurdles to overcome. I recently sold my home to downsize because of the cost of insurance and the taxes and everything. So I live in the same world they do, just like you do, and I'm sure Jason does. But it's true, even with a 3% cap on homestead, unless you lower the millage rate 3%, which is not heard of, you cannot do that, your taxes are going to go up at least 3% if the values exceed more than 3%. Mm-hmm. And we were very, very fortunate, in one way fortunate, because the values went up 18%. However, even with the cities and the counties lowering the millage rate, you'd have to have a really big reduction to see a decrease in your taxes. And that's the part that people don't understand. And then you can't cut services. You can't cut your safety. You can't cut the sheriff's department. You can't cut your libraries. There's a lot of families, like you said, that's the one thing I love about this county is we're not a rich county, but we come together. Every time there's a need or a cause or a nonprofit or a family, there's a benefit, there's something for them. And we also recognize that there's a impoverished community within St. Lucie County. And for that reason, we have nonprofits and we have our community housing department that we help fund, and we pay the utilities, we pay electric, we help people fix their cars when they can't. So we have services here that I'm really proud of. Mm-hmm. We actually funded more into that budget this year to assist the need. And it is sad because there's people that have been in their homes 30 and 40 years, and with the constant increase, like you heard the one lady speak, she inherited her mother's home. Mm-hmm. And the taxes went up because the values went up, and her mom had been in that house over 30 years. Yeah. And she's on a fixed income. So it's difficult. I know that it's not being only addressed by us here in St. Lucie County, it's being addressed statewide all the way to Tallahassee. Actually, it's being discussed in DC. It's not just Florida that's experiencing this. Yeah. We need to find a way to have affordable housing, and we're not talking about Section 8. We're talking about houses that with the income you earn, you can afford to live in a house. My fear is this year we had some economists come in, and it was noted that according to the economist, 5 years from now, if you're not making $250,000 a year, you're going to struggle to live in South Florida, period.
Yeah.
And so a lot of families are selling right now during a high market. They're moving up towards North Florida, which eventually will catch up there too. It's just going to continue to move up the state. It's not, it's going to take a little bit longer. Like I can remember where we were 30 years ago. Who would have thought we'd be where we are today? But that's the number one issue I have also is people ask about growth. Stop it. You can't. You cannot stop growth. You want me to save you money and you want me to be a good steward of your money. If you have property and you come in to do something and it's zoned that and I deny that, you're going to sue. You're going to get an attorney and you're going to sue, and then we're going to spend money in lawsuits and let those attorneys have new houses and new Mercedes-Benz. And I'm not here to do that. So I do try to find a path forward, though, where you can make it a little bit more restrictive on them.
Mm-hmm.
You
Sure.
can get something out of them by helping to pay for some of the roads and the turn lanes and parks and sidewalks. I'm a girl that's a local girl from here. I remember what it was. I don't like it any more than they do, but I'm also not here to take away people's rights. And so that's probably the biggest misconception I think that the public has.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's interesting too. You mentioned lawsuits. I remember when the Bright Line, all aboard Florida
the train, yeah.
was coming through, and all local governments. Some spent a lot more money suing than others, and our challenges were more on making sure the safety upgrades were done, and they weren't done on the back of the taxpayers. Unfortunately, the railroad, or fortunately, however you look at it, the railroad's private property.
Right.
We
And one
we
of the
have
wealthiest
right-of-ways.
businesses in the United States of America.
So
great lobbyists to go along with it.
We
You're not going
knew
to
in
beat
our
them.
attorney from the beginning, we're not going to stop this train. It's already left the station. When Governor Scott at the time, a lot of that was approved and done. So we had to figure out how to mitigate the impacts on us, and that was our focus.
And we did.
Yeah, and we did. We got a lot of the upgrades done, and and that's one thing too. Remind residents that the trains are now running. So I see a lot of time downtown Fort Pierce at Seaway and US 1. They put up new stop here on red, and I still see people edging forward to make that right, and no right turn. It's going to catch up, and it's
Moving
not
forward,
going to be pretty. Yeah.
people have to be mindful to not even stop out at the US 1. They need to stop behind the railroad
Yeah.
and wait
Yeah,
until the
that's what I'm
traffic's
saying,
cleared.
yeah.
Even in St. Lucie Village, there's 7 crossings.
Yeah.
And if you are coming up to the stop sign at Old Dixie and you have a boat behind you, your boat's going to be taken
Yeah.
out by the train. So they need to start getting in the habit of realizing they're going to have to stop behind the track. It'll give
Yep.
you a better side of view anyways, coming up and down north and south, and then go out there to make the turn, because there's not a lot of clearance from the road to where the railroad is, even at Seaway.
Yeah. And all the accidents that have happened, none of them have been the fault of Bright Line. It's been people trespassing across through the gates or pedestrians on the train tracks when they shouldn't be. So
They are running. I've seen the trains. They're beautiful trains.
yeah,
they're
and
really
it can go quick. A few seconds and then you're done. But I've gotten in the habit. I just take Citrus Bridge now. I can get in the habit of just going down Indian River Drive, then I don't have to worry about it. But, Jason, you guys saw that down south, right? Because the train started running down further down south.
Absolutely. So it's a depot in downtown West Palm.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, I just wanted to try it for myself. So I took my wife and my kids down to Miami, and it was great. It was a nice
Yeah.
experience. So I understand the impact, but at the same time, it was nice to do with the family.
And, but hopefully within the next 5 years, I think it's part of the lawsuits that we will get a train stop somewhere on the Treasure Coast. It seems like between us and Stewart, but obviously I'm pushing for Fort Pierce, but,
I
a
believe
little biased.
I believe they've already made that decision.
They have?
It-
Okay. They just haven't announced it yet, but we're working on it behind the scenes, trying to get that done.
yes.
Well, let's get back to the budget a little bit, Commissioner, because at the second budget hearing, a motion was made to lower it even more so than what we talked about during the budget workshop. So what kind of impact will that have on departments
On departments,
and the public at large?
I don't think it's going to have any impact on the departments. I don't think that the budget will shift any. I believe that they'll end up probably taking it from the reserve fund. I don't think any departments will be compromised by the decision of going lower. However, taking it from the general fund does compromise, because if we were to have a disaster of any type, a hurricane or any kind of flooding issue, that's what the reserve is for, because we have to spend that money to keep everybody
Upfront.
safe and up and going, and it's years before we get reimbursed from FEMA.
Decades sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree. We just got reimbursed, I think, last year from something from FEMA, from Francis and
Francis
Jean at
and
Vote
Jean,
4.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's another misconception that the public doesn't understand. And that's why you have a general fund. And that's why you want to have at least a considerable 20-25% reserve in your general
Sure.
fund, because it takes one disaster to wipe that out.
Yeah.
And being that we're a growing community, what once was is no longer. You have to have more. I know our citizens budget, which I talk about frequently, everybody should be involved in that, or go take the Citizens Academy class that we offer, because if you sit in that class or you attend the citizens budget, you see where the money goes, and they line item and they talk about it, and it gives you a better understanding. Like at our first hearing, there was a lot of people there that were from the city of Port St. Lucie. They didn't realize that the city is a portion of their taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it was broke down for them to comprehend and understand it, I apologize, but they ended up going to the city of Port St. Lucie's meeting after that. But, you know, people don't understand, our sheriff comes out of our budget.
Mm-hmm.
And
Medical examiner, the tax collector, pretty much all the constitutional.
they don't understand all the services come from the Board of County Commissioners, with the exception of the fire department. And that's another thing that they don't understand. All the other counties are funded through the BOCC. St. Lucie County was the first. There's only 2 in the state that went out for a referendum. The residents voted, and the fire department is their own line item in your budget. In your tax bill, and they're at 4 mills. And so that's a healthy number that is put in there that we have no control over. They have their own governing board, and they decide that. They can lower it. They can do what they want with that. And as a commissioner, you have no say in that.
Yeah.
And like Jason talked about Palm Beach, we compete with Martin County quite frequently with our sheriff's department and our deputies. So they come here and train, and as soon as something opens up, they go to Martin County because they're started at a higher salary there. So
and I think even this year, their commissioners are giving them a 12%
Yes.
raise for firefighters and law enforcement
Right.
in Martin County.
So when we think we're catching up, then the other counties are surrounding us. They're healthier. Their property values are worth more money. Their millage rate might be lower. Like the one gentleman spoke and said, you know, my home in Martin County would be less taxes. And after the meeting, I stayed and we had conversation. I said, your home wouldn't have been more. The millage rate might be lower in Martin County, but your home in Martin County value would be double, especially in the neighborhood you live in. So your taxes would be thousands of dollars more.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand is property values are high, and they've gone up 18% here, but we're still lower property values than Martin and Indian River.
On the average, yeah. The Florida Tax Box recently had a great report, and I think we're just below what the average homeowner pays across the state in taxes. And you know, I always hear that, well, we have the highest millage rate, but you're not looking at the whole equation. What county has the lowest millage rate? It always blows my mind. It's Monroe County in the Keys. That's because the values down there, like
Are the
my
highest
house
in
down
the
there,
state.
would be 3 or 4 times what it is up here. So yeah,
And people don't understand that.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't expect them to.
yeah, and I don't know. But I feel obligated to try and educate people.
No,
but
I
it's
do too.
hard because they don't. You know, how do you reach all of them and explain? I think the Citizens Academy is a great way to do that. And I know that I think Kelly's going to be starting up another session in the fall. So I've seen some. So you can go to our website, stlucieco.gov, and look for that information. Citizens Academy usually hold about 20, 25 people. It's a great way to see.
It
all
fills
of our,
up, like the minute they post it, within an hour, it's full.
Yeah, we even talked about trying to do a video virtual one, but then I don't know if people. It's not as neat to just watch a video of the landfill.
Yeah, because when you're in the
You
class,
know?
they do field trips.
Yeah, exactly.
And they go to the departments,
you
and
go
they
to the public
go to the
safety.
tours.
Yep.
And it's an eye-opener. It's an eye-opener when you go out there to the Emergency Operations Center and see where everybody is and where they bunk up when this county's shut down in the middle of a disaster. You know, you don't realize how safe we really are.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you're out there when we're in the middle of a hurricane. You know what happens out there.
I do.
Jason,
Yes.
I know you've been out there, but you've not been out there. And I pray to God you don't have to go out there
Yeah, let's
in
hope
the
you don't
middle of
have
an
to. You'll be our good
in the
luck
middle of
charm.
energy. You'll be our good luck charm. However, though, it's pretty impressive to see what staff does out there. And the Red Cross comes in, and the way that things are handled, it's amazing.
Like I said, it's not just our agency. There's nonprofits that come out there. The school districts also involved
The
heavily
cities,
with the transportation
Red
and
Cross,
sheltering. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, we're all out there together. And you know, speaking of taxes too, one of the things I know, the school district had a referendum in this county. That's almost a full mill that voters approved just to pay for mental health SROs in the schools. So, you know, that again compiles that, and it's something the voters asked for.
Yeah, if you take off if you
Or
were to
didn't
take
ask for,
off
but
the
approved.
fire department, the school board, people that have a CDD, which people don't really understand those. We tried to educate during budget, but you know, if you were to just get down to the base millage rate from the BOCC and your erosion and mosquito control, which is the basic stuff we're responsible for. And South Hutchinson Island has sand. We're not as high as people think we are.
And like you said, it's all about the full
And I mean, let's be
equation.
real. Could you trim the budget more? Yes, you could. But you always every department has a little bit of an emergency fund in it because you never know what's going to happen. So it's not just overall having the general fund to have emergency funds. Every department should have a little emergency fund, because if you just took your budget and that was exactly what everything was, what would happen if something happened and it was an emergency within your department or a piece of equipment went down? Where would that money be funded from? So yes, people ask, is there a way you could go back a little bit more? Yeah, there is.
Sure.
But at what cost do you do that? It's just like in our real world, you always try to have 3 months of reserve in an account somewhere, so that if something happens or you get sick or you lose a job, you've got 3 months to go out there and find a job or figure it out, because you've got 3 months of what your monthly cost is in reserves. I realize some people can't do that,
Sure.
but it's always a goal.
Yeah. Now, Jason, so we talked about planning for the future and the growth. I'm sure down in Palm Beach, there were 1.6 million people now down there, and it's also, I think, the largest landmass too, county-wise, right? So it's a huge area. What takeaways can we learn, or how to handle some of that growth that may? Because I know we're getting it from both ends, right? From the northeast coming down, and north central Florida as well as South Florida, people looking to relocate here.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. It's what's going to happen. I told Mr. Landry when I started here, it almost reminds me of when I moved here to Palm Beach in '84. The growth was incredible, and I don't even recognize where I grew up. That's how much it's changed. So I think the same things come in here in that regard. But as far as just trying to gain efficiencies, you got to be better with your money. I mean, that's some of the things that I've just started looking at, and I want to be able to have the data to back up anything I want to do in terms of add staff. I don't want to cut programs. That's what we're here to do. We provide the parks.
Service,
The parks are incredible. The libraries. Everybody's very passionate about what they do here, so I want to keep those services going. I don't want to compete with the private sector, so we're looking at some things if we can transfer liabilities via contracts as opposed to bringing that in-house, save us some money.
Like
in that
rather than
regard.
hiring somebody to do yoga, find a contractor to come in and offer
Potentially,
yoga.
sure.
I mean, just
Example.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking for a disc golf instructor, I could side work.
I've heard. Just an easy example is traffic control. So if you have to dig up a road, I don't want to do that with in-house staff. I'll transfer that liability. They're specialized in what they do. So those are just some of the things that we're looking at to try and stay ahead of that, avoid some legal issues. But yeah, anticipate the growth, and I'm very impressed with our management and budget team. What we thought we had a really strong budget to begin with, and then credit to the commissioners for hearing the people and saying, hey, we're gonna work with you here. And they went back in a room for 20-30 minutes and they cranked on a couple numbers and came back and they were able to.
Jen and her group, they're very, very good. Anytime I have a question, I call down there, and I mean in seconds they have it back up to me.
They know all
They're
the
very
funds.
efficient. They know the number and they know where every dollar is.
And that's another thing too. I think the public also gets confused or doesn't quite understand. Funding sources are always tied to, count strings are tied to different funding sources. We can't use the bed tax for anything but the stadium. It'd be great if we could use it to put it into parks, or, there is 0.33% of 1% that we can use, but for the most part, when you say, oh, you got record tourism numbers, why can't you use that money for beaches? Well, that's not the way it's.
No, that's true. Just like if we acquire something through a grant,
There, yep.
it's very specific as to what we can do with that grant funding and that money and that piece of property. If we have that piece of property down the road, we want to do something, we have to get approval from the grant funder to see if we can transfer that or move it. It's very like impact fees. Impact fees can only be used for new roads. So that's why going to that Citizens Academy, it's all broke down for you and explains to you. It's not taxes come in, it's all one pot, this needs it and this needs it. That's not how it works.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's enterprise funds.
Yep. Building, the money the landfill makes has to
Yes.
stay at the landfill.
Yes.
So it is a lot to. I know it's a $700 million budget, but it's not all coming here. Like you said, it gets divvied out to the other agencies as well.
It's very specific as to what can and can't be done with it.
So, and I think Jason alluded to it too. There's a lot, and maybe you did too. There's a lot of unfunded mandates we get from the state and from the feds. Just like a homeowner, my insurance got dropped because my roof was 18 years old, or I had a window to get it replaced, and we get those mandates down from the state, like, oh, you guys are going to have to pay for this inmate medical or whatever it is.
Yes, we do. There's usually at least one unfunded mandate every year that comes down to us, which again is why you have to have your general fund. You have to have a little bit in there to figure it out. Just like when they mandated the school resource officers, we had to come up with that money and help the school fund those resource offices and add that money to the budget of the sheriff.
Yeah.
And so every year there's always at least one that comes down.
Yeah.
You never know what it's going to be. And just like talk about libraries, there's a lot of families that don't have internet. They can't afford internet. Comcast has come out with a program this year that they are giving free internet if you qualify. But there's a lot of families that can't even afford the computer. So they go to our libraries and they utilize the libraries in order to access the internet. A lot of our families that homeschool, they go to the libraries and they use the libraries for that. So people that want to apply for jobs and they can't afford the computers, they go to the libraries, because almost everybody, you have to go online now to fill out an application. So our library serves more than the purposes of what the libraries once used to do.
And they've offered a lot of new programs, even teaching people how to use their smartphones, whether it's an Apple or Android or some of the digital services that library has.
St. Lucie County even has a law library,
Yes.
which has helped some of the younger lawyers coming out of school that can't afford to go get all the programs they need to have the books online. So to start out, they actually utilize the law library to go in there to do their research and stuff as well too. So we're one of the few counties that has a law library.
Yeah. And since we were talking about internet, Jess, I know you have the IT department, which talk about infrastructure and trying to fill like a gap. That's a target that's always moving, right? Technology is always moving ahead of us, and how do we, again, with a background in security, that's always a concern too.
Yeah, so we are pushing hard for that cybersecurity grant. We have several projects going on in terms of our IT department's creating a looped system. So if we have a break here, it just comes back around and you don't lose service.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of moving parts in that department, but chasing resiliency and just never be down for any service. That way all of our constitutionals, we don't lose their operation. People can come to the libraries and still do what they need to do, as Commissioner Townsend said.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly 100% what we're trying to do, is stay ahead of it, but also anticipate the future growth.
Yeah, and then I remember one of the things that stands out when we look at the budget, I think our staffing levels are at 2011 it was maybe, like the number of employees we have, but yet we have over 100,000 more residents. And some of that, you can make up the gap with technology, right? We have apps that people can report issues to, or like a pothole, instead of having to pick up the phone and call somebody.
Well, some of it too is, you know me, I'm not politically correct, so I'm just going to say this. We might have 100,000 more people and less staff. However, you're right, more people are working from home. That's less brick and mortar. Some of those 100,000 people, the services they require is Parks and Rec. We only have so many parks, and so you only have so many employees that take care of the park. So yes, having 100,000 more people would drive up some of the cost of the need for more staffing. It's not going to drive it up a whole lot that we can justify saying, oh, we have 100,000 more people in St. Lucie County. We need 100 or 100 more staff members to take care of the services. Because a lot of the services that they use are services we've already maxed out, no matter how busy the parks would get, or no matter how many people are out on their boat in the water.
Sure. I think you're right. I think it depends on the department. We've certainly seen an increase in records requests in the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the law changing now, right? I can, you can't do code complaints anonymous anymore. So everyone wants to know who ratted, which neighbor ratted them out because their grass is overgrown.
I will say though,
that takes staff to go pull that record and make sure it's redacted.
But that is a focus in Tallahassee this year. There are a couple representatives and senators that are going to try to go back to the way code was.
Really?
Yes, and Florida Association of Counties has championed that as well, because it has been very, very, very dangerous having that law in place. There's people that actually have attacked people out of anger.
Yeah.
It was not a good move.
No. So that, and again, more people, we've seen an increase in 911 calls, or and that's another area.
Which
we talk about
911
salaries is a area of struggle.
We would need more dispatchers at 911, because that more people generates more need in that.
Absolutely, sure. So again, it all depends on which department you're looking
Right.
at, but because IT is internal, they don't support the general public at large, but the more people eating up the bandwidth in the buildings, then maybe we need to put more into the infrastructure.
But George has done a good job, I think, this year at reshifting some things and letting some of the people that are out in the field work from home remotely and bringing some of those that really need to be in here for customer service back to the brick and mortar building. And he has merged a couple departments.
Sure. And pulled some out.
Which got rid of
but-
some of the high director fees. But yet you still kept the employees, and that saved hundreds of thousands of dollars by not having the top tier administration in those departments that he merged. So they've done a good job this year at redirecting a lot of the things that they did.
Yeah.
Like they moved a lot of the people over to the old Sam's building, which is our logistics center. There's people up there, there's offices up there, and they've shifted some offices inside that building.
Yeah. And that, which I know, again, as facilities creates challenges, right? Because now we got putting up walls and AC, but it's a good way to, if we can make it work, we do. Right? So.
Well, in terms of driving those FTEs, we're really championing the data-driven decision-making. So I have all the sections looking at how they're going to track their work. And if I can show the discrepancy, if I got to bring in overtime or hire contractors, it makes more sense to hire more people. But until they can provide that data, we don't even discuss it. So they're all barking, I need help, I need more people, I need more. So show me the data and we'll get to work. So they're creating a pretty robust tracking system so we can go to get to
And
work
I know
on
that was a talk too, even at the director level, with looking at performance-based metrics and realistic, and don't put the bar low enough that you can always step over it. Because sometimes we need to see it's yellow or red, because that'll justify, well, we need to put more resources there.
Well, and even the airport's finally growing. With bringing Cameron on, we're very, very close to finalizing the 139 certification, which that's going to open up the airport and maybe someday bring in a commercial flight. So we're headed in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exciting.
And I'm glad you're with us.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're tolerating us.
All the way around.
Well, anything else we want to mention before we wrap
No,
up?
I do want to bring up, as we all know, Jen Dubé, who was with the Economic Development Council. We lost her. And I just want to say to the public that knew her, thank you for always supporting our Jen. And she's going to be greatly missed because she was a pillar within the St. Lucie County family. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. But other than that, no. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep being awesome. And thanks for being here with us, Jason. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Very nice.
It was last minute when I said, can you do this with me?
Yeah,
So
we
I
had a
appreciate your
shift in guests,
flexibility.
so yeah, absolutely appreciate that.
Yep. And
Very
thank you for your staff, Mike and Stefan and everybody. They always do a good job at doing the shows to keep everybody informed.
We try. Well, thank you both for
Thank
coming
you.
on the show. We'll
Outstanding.
have you on again soon.
Thank
Don't go
you.
anywhere. We're going to take a quick break. Before we do, we're going to check in with another public work project with another Update St. Lucie.
The Public Works Department continues to serve the citizens of St. Lucie County with a solid, dependable infrastructure program. The Southeast Camino Street Culvert Outfall Inspection and Repair Project included replacing the culvert and repairing the head wall at the west end of the culvert. Repairing the culvert allows water to freely flow and helps prevent flooding. The restoration of the outfall will provide improvements to the drainage for the portion of River Park south of Prima Vista Boulevard and east of the North Fork of the St. Lucie River. For more information about St. Lucie County infrastructure projects, visit stluciecode.gov.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Inside St. Lucie, and we hope you'll tune in again next month. If you have topics or subjects you'd like to see covered here on the program related to the St. Lucie County government, give us a call at 772-462-1791 or send us an email at pio@stluciecode.org. And if you'd like to see previously aired episodes of this or other SLC TV programs, visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/stluciegov. I'm your host, Eric Gill. For myself and the staff here in the Communications Division, thanks for watching.